Good morning. How are you guys? It's Sarah, and I'm just coming in for a weigh-in Wednesday on a Sunday. And I actually don't have a weigh-in from today. I have a weigh-in from Wednesday. And then I just want to talk about a few things. I've actually been putting off making this video, and it's not because of the weight gain. I have not been in a super great headspace for a couple days. Um, Several things have happened. My kids have been not 100%, and I don't know. I just been a little bit on the struggle bus, mentally and physically, and my clothes aren't feeling the way that I like for my clothes to feel, and my head's just been a little funny. You know, last week was on my lady time. This week I have not had that excuse. I have just been in a weird headspace. There's a couple stories I'd like to share, but let me jump into the numbers really quick. I started my journey at 357 day of surgery. That was not my highest weight. That's the weight that I typically go by when I talk about surgery. This video is so dark, isn't it? Let's go turn some lights on. Come with me. But anyways, the lowest that I ever saw for not very long was like 173, 176. But when I got pregnant in January of 2014, when I found out I was pregnant, I was 181. During that time, I did not gain super a lot of weight during that pregnancy, but I did gain quite a significant amount of weight after pregnancy when I was in the process of trying to breastfeed my son, who would not latch on, and so we were having issues with supply, and I was eating and drinking anything that you told me that would possibly produce or increase my milk supply. I was doing it. And you guys have heard this story before, especially if you've been following me for very long, so you probably don't want to hear all that. But I was obsessed. When I say obsessed, I mean obsessed. I've jokingly told the story this past week that if you would have told me that dog turds to increase my milk supply, I wouldn't have happily done it, but I would have eaten it. And I would have fried those suckers up, and I would have eaten them every day, as many as I could. That's the kind of mentality I had. I was so stressed out, which I'm sure plays into some of the weight gain as well. I was so stressed out, and it was just not a great time. After that, in the August of 2016, I started a ketogenic way of life, and I continued that until we found out we were pregnant in April of 2017. And in that time, I lost about 10 to 15 pounds, and then I would gain about 5 pounds. And then I would lose, the 5 pounds. And then I would gain the 5 pounds. But my body changed so much. And that was the Christmas holiday that I felt really good and looked really good. And everywhere I went, everybody was like, oh my goodness, you're looking fabulous. I got pregnant in April of 2017. I found out we had a sweet baby girl in December of that same year. She was born December 27th, 2017. My hair is driving me crazy. It's 2 days clean, and I really should have pulled it up. During that pregnancy, I gained about 30 pounds. But initially, after she was born, I lost I lost a significant amount of weight. But again, breastfeeding issues, I let myself creep back up. So shortly after pregnancy, I remember being somewhere around 249, 240s, in the 240s somewhere. When I started weighing in for the first time since being back on track, since June of last year, I don't know how high I got. I don't know how low I got, but I was like 267. Last week I came to you at 257. Which would have been a 6-pound loss from the week before or the 2 weeks before. This week I'm back up to 263. And again, I'll be honest, I was expecting a gain. I was not expecting a 6-pound gain, just because that's just how my body does. But I've had a little trouble staying 100% on track. And it's so interesting because my head was in it. I was logging all my foods. I was doing all my non negotiables, which, by the way, that is not a word I would ever use. That word totally came from Liz. Um, I was doing all the things I felt right. Um, in the last couple weeks, I've taken my kids to the doctor 3 separate times, both for an ear infection and also for a broken foot, and all of them were fine. To which now I have been stating that I will no longer take my kids to the doctor unless something has fallen off or things are oozing. Um, Neither one of my kids sleep great. That's just the name of the game. Phone call. In the process, I don't know. I have no real excuses other than my headspace has not been great, and I'm having a really hard time with staying on track. And I don't like necessarily where my head is as far as I hate and I've talked about this forever. And everywhere we go, everything we do, I am constantly packing up food, not just for myself, but also for my children. And I hate that I feel like I'm working so hard to be this chubby. That is something that Tanya used to always say, and used to get so tickled. But it's true, and that's exactly how I feel. Um, I'll be honest, going forward, I'm not exactly sure. And how many times have y'all been down this road with me? A bunch. I don't exactly sure know what it's going to look like. I do know that I am really saddened by the fact that I feel like this is consuming my life. And that is not something I have available currently at this time. I just want to be normal, which I know is never going to happen. And I know that I've touched on that in a few other videos. Um, I have a lot of things going through my head. A lot. And I'm not acting like I'm different than anybody else or that I'm special or that I've heard well, if I can do it, you can do it. And I'm not trying to act like my circumstances are different than anybody else's. But I do feel like I know that for myself, I don't want to take this time away from my children. And that seems to be what I'm doing. And so I'm not 100% sure where I'm going to go from here. Speaking of kids, one's up. I'll be back. I'm going to make this short and sweet. But I've had some experiences over the past week that were very hurtful. And I need to make some changes. And I want to put my kids first as I make this video in the dark with my baby who just woke up. But I also need to get control of my own life and health. And there are those that say it is selfish not to do that. And I feel like there are those that would say that feel like it's selfish to do that. And I have a good mixture feeling there about both. But one of the things I wanted to talk about super quick before I end this, because I was going to tell you a couple stories, was earlier in the week, in some discussion with some good friends, the question was posed, aren't you happier since weight loss surgery? And I've really had to ponder on that because my immediate response was absolutely not. And you think that I would be. The 350 to 400 pound Sarah wouldn't even know what to do with the 250 pound Sarah, 260 pound Sarah. My entire adult life, I was basically anywhere between 300 and 400 pounds. My entire adult life. I know we've talked about this multiple times, but I weighed 240 in the 8th grade. The very first diet I ever went on that I can ever remember going on, I can remember going into this place called New Way, and I weighed like 280 when I got there. And I was a junior in high school then. But for the most part, I was always 300 pounds, and I felt good at 300 pounds. I felt good at 310 pounds. If I got to that low of a weight, I was rocking. And so, am I happy being a mom? Absolutely. Am I happy with how the weight loss surgery helped me meet those goals? Absolutely. Am I a happier person overall? I don't know that I am. And there's a few other things that go into that. But I just find myself, I even asked my best friend, and her immediate response was no. And she said, "You weren't obsessed about your size or food or all these things before." And she said, "You constantly are obsessing over those things now." And she said, "You know, you're just not the same happy person." And it's very upsetting to think that I'm letting something so positive get to me in such a negative way. Uh, I want to be in this moment of, well, you need to appreciate where you are. Hey, but also, the biggest issue is I've had a little taste of the glory. I know what it's like to be smaller now, and that is the reason that I beat myself up constantly and want to be back down to that number. So I have a lot of thinking to do. I have a lot of praying to do, and kind of trying to decide what I'm going to do from now here on out. And I've been at this roadblock before, but never have I had it posed to me in such a way that made me realize that I was not a happier person. The other piece to this would also be that, there's a difference in being a single lady, or just a lady with a husband traveling and with a full-time job, as opposed to being a stay-at-home mom with 2 kids under the age of 4. That, I'm sure, has something to do with it. Not that I'm not happy and not that I'm not loving this life, but there's a lot of extra stressors that I didn't have, almost 7 years ago. So, going into this 7-year anniversary of my VSG, I can tell you firsthand that there are some immediate things that come to my mind when I think about things. And the number one thing is embarrassment. I'm embarrassed that I was able to get down to 180 pounds only to be right back up, to 260. That's a whole lot of weight. That's a whole lot of weight. I'm embarrassed. I'm embarrassed that I've gained that weight back. I feel like a failure. I am embarrassed that I put my body, I put my finances, I put my health on the front burner to do all those things to now be 60, 80 pounds heavier than I was. And then I think, you had 2 human beings and you're staying at home. You met your goal. You have 2 human beings and you're living this life of being a stay-at-home mom. I don't know. I have a lot of things spinning around in my head. And again, I know I've come to you guys with this crossroads a million times before, and I'm sorry, and I appreciate that you are willing to stick with me on this journey. I know that you guys will have comments. I would prefer nothing negative. I'm not saying that constructive criticism isn't great, and I'm not saying that it's not helpful, but I am honestly not in a position where I can listen or read that right now. And if you choose to comment something negative or something that you feel like is constructive criticism, you might want to rethink that. I mean, what am I going to do? It's open public, right? I'm putting myself out there. But I'm really not in a good headspace to hear those things right now. But I know things need to change. And I feel like I keep making those changes without results. And I keep trying to decide, is it worth it to me to put myself in this position constantly, making these choices, obsessing over this food and this particular lifestyle with no real results. Are you want to eat, baby? She's going to eat. And with that, I will leave you. I love you guys. I appreciate you. I appreciate everything you do. I'm going to